everybody. Thank you for joining us for our Travel Talk Series Spotlight. We're going to be talking about Germany special events today. We will begin in just a few minutes. If you'd like, you can feel free to put where you are tuning in from in the chat. Let us know where you're coming from, and we might shout you out here on the webinar.
Die Alten schauen himmelwärts.
Wonderful. Greetings from California. That's great. Plymouth, Massachusetts, near to us here. We have Texas and Nevada. Great. Folks joining us from Canada. Hello, Canada. Hello, Pennsylvania and Missouri. More folks from Canada. Hello, Alberta. Colorado. Greetings, Colorado. Again, thank you folks for joining us for our spotlight on Germany and special events as part of our Travel Talk series. We will begin the webinar shortly, and we look forward to talking with you about these wonderful special events. In the meantime, if you'd like to tell us where you're tuning in from, please feel to enter that in the section at the bottom of your screen marked chat. We have folks coming in from Michigan, Minnesota, wonderful. Iowa City. More folks tuning in from Canada. Hello, Canada. Oklahoma City, welcome. Tampa, Florida, welcome. Washington State, welcome, Washington. We also have folks joining us on Facebook today, so hello to all the folks that are joining us on Facebook. Hello, Virginia. All right, folks, thank you again for joining us for this Travel Talk series. This is going to be a spotlight on Germany and special events. Again, if you want to, you can put in where you're joining us from in the chat. We love to see where everybody is joining us from, and we will be getting started very shortly. Hello, Maryland. Thank you for joining us. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today for our Travel Talk series. Today, we are going to be shining a spotlight on Germany and special events. This is something that we're very excited to be joining you with. When we think about which areas of the world to highlight during these Travel Talk series, we always want to pick our times and locations carefully. And for this webinar, we decided, why not highlight our Christmas markets that take place in Germany? It's such a wonderful festive time. And during this unusual holiday season, we thought, what better way to bring a little bit of German Christmas markets into your home? But we also wanted to highlight some other special events that happen in Germany throughout the year. This time of year is a great time to look forward to the future and new beginnings. And so we wanted to highlight 3 different special events that take place in Germany. And we're really lucky today that we have 3 incredible tour directors that will be talking through these events with us. So we're going to be talking about 3 special events, and we're going to be highlighting 3 particular itineraries that will allow you to be a participant in these wonderful events that take place in Germany. So you might be asking yourself, well, you know, these tours or these events, one could do them on their own, but there are reasons that you should consider doing them with Go Ahead. Now, the first is the unique itineraries. We're going to be highlighting some of those for you today, but also when going to a special event, there can be some real logistical headaches, and we will take care of all of that for you. But lastly, and most importantly, I would say that the thing that really differentiates us is our tour directors. Now, tour directors are an incredible asset to Go Ahead. Not only are they logistical geniuses, but they're also storytellers and historians, and they really connect you to the places that you are visiting. So today, we are incredibly fortunate to be joined by 3 of our top tour directors from Germany, and they have been with us for a number of years, and I'm going to introduce them in turn to you now. First, we're joined by Ildiko. Ildiko, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your history with Go Ahead Tours.
Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Ildiko and I am a tour director based in Leipzig, and I've been leading tours for Go Ahead for over 20 years, enjoying every single moment of it. And I can tell you this much, I am very much looking forward to the next 20 years to start.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Next, we have Alex. Alex, if you could say hello to our audience and tell us a little bit about your time with Go Ahead as well.
Ja, guten Tag zusammen. Greetings from beautiful Heidelberg. I'm working also for Go Ahead more than 20 years, but I would not call it working. It's not a job. It's also a big, big passion, big part of my life.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really look forward to talking to you about some of these special events. And we also have Lala joining us. Lala, if you would say hello and introduce yourself and tell us about your time with Go Ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to see you in such a way. I'm in this 20+ club of people working and enjoying the life with Go Ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, before we get into the broader part of our presentation, I did want to just touch on a few housekeeping items for those of you that are joining us from home. One of them is this is a little bit different than your ordinary Zoom call. You can see us, but we can't see you. And we will be opening this session up for questions. We want to hear from you. So if you do have questions about anything that we're speaking about today, there is a section at the bottom of your screen marked Q&A, and if you could put your questions in there, we would very much appreciate it. We also have questions that have been submitted beforehand that we will be going to, but we also want to hear from you. If you do have questions about things related to COVID-19 or how that could affect your travel plans specifically, we would ask that those questions be directed to our phone line, which is 877-402-4072. All right, so with that, we are going to be talking about our first special event. This event is no stranger to most of you watching, and it is Oktoberfest. Alex, I'm going to ask you to talk a bit about Oktoberfest. Why is this time of year and this festival the best way to experience Germany?
Well, first of all, September is a great time to come to Germany. It is good weather, but the highlight are 16 days in September, October, and it's the time of the Oktoberfest. The Oktoberfest is the largest event in the world. It is a place where in 16 days, more than 6 million from all over the world coming together, celebrating life, peaceful and in a happy way. So as you probably see my background, this is normally, there should be the Christmas tree, but I needed it to a little bit extend the Oktoberfest for my heart. So, but for me, the Oktoberfest is a must. You have to be there once in your lifetime. You have to.
Wonderful, wonderful. And one thing that we talked a little bit about before is that, you have led many different itineraries with Go Ahead that will feature Oktoberfest, but there was one that you wanted to speak about in particular. Could you tell us about that particular itinerary?
Yes, it's called Historic Germany, and this tour shows my beautiful country in all its diversity, from north to south, from east to west, from the kings of Saxony, Prussia, and Bavaria to modern history. You will see cities like Berlin. Berlin is a city which never sleeps. It has everything: art, history, culture, shopping. But also we travel to smaller towns like Weimar. Weimar is a very important city for Germany. Here was our first constitution signed. Our greatest poets and writers like Schiller and Goethe lived and worked there. There is the Bauhaus Museum, which is a World Heritage, and especially when you're from Chicago, you should visit this Bauhaus Museum. But there's also a pearl, I would say that, a pearl which is outside of Dresden, a city called Görlitz. And Görlitz is the most eastern located German city. It is divided by a river, Neiße, what you see in the photo, and one part is German and one part is Polish. The architecture, especially on the German side, you'll find houses from Gothic times, from the Renaissance times, Baroque, Art Deco. Therefore, Görlitz was also a film set for a lot of movies. But my personal highlight is when my colleagues or myself take you by the hand and we walk over that bridge where you see here on the left-hand side from Germany into Poland, and where we have great lunch.
Oh, good.
It's fantastic. So after that, we are continuing the tour. So we stop in Bamberg, where we have our first beer samples to train for the Oktoberfest, which is in Munich. And as I said, this is the highlight. We will stay there for a full day.
Oh, wonderful. And, the way that you describe it, it sounds like there's, a lot to see on this tour as far as history and culture, arts. So even if you're not the world's biggest beer enthusiast, it sounds like there's a lot that you could get out of a tour like this.
Absolutely. So I mentioned the cities before, but even if you're not a beer drinker, the Oktoberfest offers you so many things too. I mean, you can go into the tents, of course. You can drink there other things than beer. I see families going to the Oktoberfest, going to wine tents or coffee tents. There are so many tents, or to the amusement park. So it is not necessary. Plus the history of the Oktoberfest. So we're talking about not a beer fest originally. It was a place where a wedding happened in the 12th of October, 1810, by the Wittelsbach family. And that was the start. And they repeated every year, and it grew and grew and grew. And if you're interested in history of the Oktoberfest, there are even books about it. So we're talking about 210 years of her history.
Wow. Well, I mean, it looks like just so much fun. Could you tell us, for those of us like me who have never been to Oktoberfest, what is it actually like to be in one of those massive tents?
So, especially when you travel with us, Go Ahead, you don't have to worry about anything. We bring you into the tent. We have reservations, and then immediately we do the transfer. But when you are in the tent, you hear the music, you hear the singing, the joy, the love. But what I actually want to say is, I can talk and explain my love to the Oktoberfest, but it's the same thing when I show you a beer and I drink it, and you can only see it and not smell it. So you have to attend. You have to attend.
Wonderful. Well, one of the questions that we got ahead of time that I do want to put to you here is, will folks be able to learn any German songs if they attend Oktoberfest?
Absolutely, especially one song. When I have a second to sing it, it's the most important thing. It's called Ein Prosit der Gemütlichkeit. Ein Prosit der Gemütlichkeit. It means a prosit to coziness.
Ah, I love it. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for telling us about that. Again, I imagine that we have folks that are watching now that might have some questions about Oktoberfest or about the logistics of going there. Oh, I see one question that we had come in, and that was, did Oktoberfest happen this year?
No, it didn't. And it's not the first time that it was canceled. This was the 24th time in the history of the Oktoberfest.
Well, let's cross our fingers and hope that everything is looking good for next year. And if you can, please join us. We would love to have you on a tour that includes Oktoberfest. All right, so we're going to transition to our second special event at this stage. And this one is the Oberammergau Passion Play. Now, this event only happens every 10 years, but it is really quite the spectacle. And I'm going to be bringing in Ildiko to talk to us about this. Now, Ildiko, can you tell us a little bit about the history of the Passion Play and its place in the town of Oberammergau?
Yes, absolutely. So Oberammergau Passion Play is one of the world's oldest and most famous theater plays reenacting the suffering of Jesus. And this is the last 5 days of his life from the time he goes into Jerusalem until the crucifixion and the resurrection. And the Passion Play is a tradition that actually started 400 years ago in this tiny, picturesque Bavarian village called Oberammergau, and I know that is a mouthful. And at that time, the villagers were seeking salvation from the Black Plague that was ravaging Europe. They vowed to reenact the play every 10 years until the end of times if God saved them from the plague. And so it came. So Oberammergau today is an amazing place, an amazing event, and the Passion Play is a spectacle that everybody should see once in a lifetime.
Wonderful. Thank you for telling us a bit about that. So my understanding is that you know, almost the whole town gets involved in one way or another.
Yes, that's true. So one of the totally astonishing aspects of the Oberammergau Passion Plays is that the entire village is actually involved. And they usually need in the average 6 years for the preparation. And from the roughly 5,000 inhabitants, half of them are involved. And what you can see here in the picture actually is this really famous Passion Play theater of Oberammergau that can seat 4,500 people. And at a time, almost 1,000 can be actually on the stage. And part of this communal effect is also if you are a person from Oberammergau, and only if you are from there, you can participate in the play. You grow up with this, you breathe this, you wanna be part of it. And imagine just being a little boy growing up in Oberammergau, and when visitors come and they ask you, you are 6, what do you wanna be when you grow up? And your answer is, invariably, I wanna be Jesus Christ. It's amazing. And this is a scene actually when we see that how many people can be on the stage. These are all amateur actors from the village itself. And in the largest scene, they actually use almost 1,000 live animals and people crowding the scene.
Wow, that is really something. And oh my goodness! And for those who love theater or anything, I mean, this is quite as you say, a spectacle. Now, of course, you know the play itself is a big part of why we would be visiting Oberammergau, but the town itself is actually quite beautiful. And I understand that you want to talk a little bit about some of the art and culture that you can find in Oberammergau as well.
Absolutely. So if you come to Oberammergau, and of course for 10 years of any century or any time, this is a sleepy little place, but it has some superb folk art. And if you come at the time when Oberammergau Passion Play is actually up, we do have over a day time in discovering this spectacular place. And what you can see here is one of these art traditions that the villagers were practicing already over 500 100 years, even before the Passion Play tradition started. And what I would like to point out is this amazing art on the outside walls of the houses. And you could call this a medieval mural tradition or medieval airbrushing. I also like to call it an open air fresco. A fresco usually would imagine inside buildings, but this is some meticulous and really high-end artwork outside of buildings. So when you are in Oberammergau, you can go from building to building and see artwork that normally should be hanging in museums. And then we have another form of art as well that has been practiced here for a very long time, and that is wood carving. Oberammergau wood carvings is, you really have to see it to believe it. It is super detailed. It is high-end craftsmanship. Today they have about 60 master wood carvers that are still practicing this tradition, making figurines, mainly religious figurines that are as small as my little finger and bigger than life. They're usually painted, and you can visit and actually watch in life the artists, the workmen making these wood carvings. And I would go to this place just for that already.
Wow. So if folks are interested in getting a little souvenir, perhaps a little wood carving would be something that they might be able to bring home from Oberammergau?
Absolutely. They will have great difficulty, just making a selection, like making a choice. It's going to be too much to pick from. It's going to be, oh my God, I have 10 favorites. Which one should I take?
I love it. So as with Oktoberfest, we do have a number of different tour itineraries that can bring you to Oberammergau for the Passion Play. But you've chosen one to highlight for us. Can you tell us about that itinerary?
Yes, I will be glad to do so. So I picked the one that is called Munich, the Swiss Alps, and Paris, and that does have, as you guys can see, it Oberammergau right after Munich. And the reason I picked this tour, because it's a number of reasons. One is that for me, this tour has so much beauty packed into it, and I am all for that. It is both scenic beauty and also the man-made style, the architecture, the traditions that is jammed in there that makes it really, really very attractive. Another reason why I would probably go with this tour is that you have two great cities at both ends, Munich and Paris, kind of framing the tour. So if you yourself see you are more the scenic and countryside, and I love just looking at that spectacular mountain landscape kind of a person, but you have a gal who is the city type of a character, he can or she can tag along with you. And the third reason I love this one is because this is a multi-country tour, but it does have this red line going through it, and that red line is the Germanic culture of the Alps. So we're going to show you the Bavarian Alps. We're going to dip into the Austrian Alps for a little while, and Swiss Alps that are breathtaking, and then finishing off this Germanic Alpine tradition theme, we will explore Alsatia, where Alsatia is a very particular part of Central Europe, which has been ping-pong back and forth between France and Germany for centuries. And the best of French and German culture are intertwined there, culminating, for example, in great cuisine, really, really good food. So to summarize that, while a lot of tours give you an introduction to certain parts of Europe, this really is an immersion tour. So we're gonna immerse you to everything that Germany culture and tradition has in these particular parts of the Alps.
I love it. That sounds like an amazing immersive experience, and natural beauty. Of course, I mean, just looking at this picture, that is really stunning. We also wanted to highlight some of the, as you said, some of the man-made structures. There's some wonderful architecture that you're going to be able to see along this this tour route as well.
Yeah, totally. So while I really, really love showing my travelers the vernacular architecture, the Bavarian farmhouses, the Swiss chalets, they never really made it to the big history books, but we do have something for those of you who would like to see the pedigreed architecture or the backdrop to events that actually shaped world history. And here you can see, for example, the Nymphenburg Palace in Munich that we are visiting on this tour. Then up the way I'm sitting on the right-hand corner, you have the residence, which is also something you can easily visit in your free time on this tour. And of course, the quintessential continental palace, the most famous palace of all, or castles of all, is the Neuschwanstein Castle that features on this tour.
Yeah, having been there myself, it is really something to see it in pictures, but then when you're there in person, it's really
different.
quite something. So before we move on, we did get one question submitted to the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and it's about the Passion Play. And the question is, if you don't speak German, is there a translation available for the Passion Play?
So the Passion Play is in German, and that I don't think is going to change. But what happens is that they do have the entire dialogue and the description of the scenes in a little booklet that you can pick up when you enter the theater, and you can read that through as it is happening. But it is all in ancient German. Yeah.
Okay, so there is a translation available that you can read along.
Available. Totally.
All right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, if you have more questions about Oberammergau or this itinerary that Ildiko has shown us, please submit them to the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen, and we will try to circle back to that at the end of our presentation. But Ildiko, thank you so much for talking to us about Oberammergau. Now we're going to move on to our German Christmas markets. This is something that I've been really looking forward to because, you know, this time of year, it makes me want to go and explore these stalls and have these experiences. But Lala is going to be joining us to talk about these. Lala, now, what time of year are the Christmas markets active, and is this a great time to visit?
It is a fabulous time to visit because normally people look at November as this completely low-key period of time without realizing that about 1 month prior to the Christmas, we do have a special magic button over here, and we push it, and then all the cities and towns turn into this quaint, cute, medieval villages with the huts where you can literally, I mean, when you come to the streets, you can eat the air because it's just filled with this amazing sense of gingerbread and cookies. And of course, Glühwein, the mulled wine that everybody really drinks around. And it's a great time because you have less tourists, more locals, because as a local, you do go to the Christmas markets. It's a great chance to buy unique presents. Some of the souvenirs you can find anywhere, but many of them you can find only in these particular places because it's like a handicraft fair, if you wish.
Oh, wonderful. Like what kind of things might one buy at a Christmas market?
Well, you can buy anything from the ornaments. I mean, Christmas ornaments is quite an important one, and the people do buy it. To the actually, for example, spices that you cannot find anywhere else. You can buy nutcrackers, let's say that, any handicrafts. You can buy woolen things. Boiled wool is, for example, quite popular, especially in Austria. So all kinds of things. And also being, I think, during this Christmas period of time, you realize how many traditions that are in the United States or Canada, they do originally come from Germany. I mean, like from this German-speaking world.
Yeah, you know, we were discussing this a bit earlier. Could you talk a little bit about some of those traditions, maybe some that our travelers would recognize and maybe some that might be new to them?
Well, the fact is that the oldest Christmas market is still the Christmas market in Germany. I mean, the oldest, most renowned one is the one that you see on the picture. That's the Striezelmarkt, and that's in Dresden. I mean, there would be a little bit older one, but we don't get into these details. And it has been active since 1343.
Wow.
Just feel that, 1433. And it's actually over here, what you cannot see, but every year they have a competition of the prettiest huts because they decorate also the huts in a different way and have a competition who would get a better one. Or, for example, the tradition of presenting something during the Christmas time, because it came with Martin Luther. Martin Luther actually introduced quite a few things. He introduced the putting, for example, the candles on the Christmas tree. He introduced the Christmas tree being inside of the home, and also moved the tradition of exchanging presents from the 6th of December, which is still celebrated as the Nicholas Day, to the Christmas Day, Christkindlmarkt, that's how we call it. And the pyramid, for example, that you see, and that the pyramid, it symbolizes the Christmas tree. And you still read that in the older books, that welfare families could afford a Christmas tree. But the more you go to the outskirts, the more you'd find this pyramid symbolizing that. I mean, I do have one just in front of me. I mean, apparently you will have the candles over here that are put off in order not to have terrible noise over here, and you know that it rotates with that. Also, we have this amazing tradition of the Advent wreath that you see on the upper right picture. There is just one candle lit up. Actually, by now it should have been 3, and you just started that with the first Advent, and that's the tradition which comes from the beginning of the 19th century from Hamburg, for example. And you see also amazing Christmas tree. And would you ever think that for the longest period of time, actually till the beginning of the 19th century, the Christmas trees were decorated with apples. We do have winter apples, which are called Christkindläpfel. And then the traditional form was to have those, as well as the communion bread. And then in the beginning of the 19th century, something terrible happened. I mean, there was a very, very bad harvest for these apples. And then amazing people decided that they could make the real ornaments. And that's what you just see in the middle. And many of these communion breads, they were exchanged for the gingerbreads, for example. I mean, that's an example. Just imagine, that's the picture that I took just outside of Salzburg, and it's all lit up. There is a park over there, completely beautifully lit up.
See, I love hearing stuff like this, because I had never known about the history of where Christmas ornaments came from, and that's an example of the kind of things that you can learn when you go on these tours and have these kind of experiences. It's really wonderful.
Exactly.
Now, I know that we have there's Christmas markets in many different cities, and we have different itineraries that hit different ones. You selected one itinerary to highlight for us, and I was hoping that you could tell us about this itinerary and why you selected this one.
Well, I love this tour 365 days a year. I mean, just absolutely seriously. But around the Christmas time, it's as if you would have this added value, because you just have all the sites plus lit up wonderful towns. And I love that, because it just starts in gorgeous Heidelberg. I mean, this is my alma mater. That's why I'm so attached to that. In man, this whole, I mean, you see that's the main, the market square, and around the market square, as well as around the Karlsplatz above, you see one of the pictures lit up castle. You have this little hut, and it's such a great start, because it's quaint, small, it's secure, people are talking, it's a place of students, so it's a wonderful, wonderful start before you arrive to Switzerland. Right, that's as an example. And you will see how different it is. And then after that, you move to Austria after a while. And again, you'll just find a completely different combination of the handicrafts and souvenirs that you might find.
Lovely. Now, I understand that you wanted to talk a little bit more about Glühwein and what that is, and how people might experience this in a typical German Christmas market.
Yeah, kind of. Glühwein gives us an excuse for at least 4 weeks to drink nonstop. And I mean, like, and you don't have to wait for 5 o'clock because it's dark outside. You can really start much, much earlier. Apparently, that's one of the drinks that has been around since the 1st century AD. How do I know? I have not been then around. But actually on each Christmas market, you drink the Glühwein from completely different mugs. The mug that you see here on the left-hand side is one of many. Each Christmas market would have a different one. And then for the in the middle age time, it was famous as the Hippocrates. So it was a completely medicinal. It just wasn't a way, from my point of view, to upgrade sour wine, if you wish. So because if you add certain things, then suddenly it becomes really much tastier. And we do have one of the oldest recipes from Saxony, from the same Stritzel market. I have to say there is not such a thing as one particular recipe. I mean, there are about 20 of different Glühweins of different kind that you can buy, for example, on the Stritzel market, but also on many other ones. And from my point of view about that, it's important, less is more. I mean, let me tell you, if you are completely lazy and you don't want to worry, then you buy in Germany such a bottle. By the way, you can take 2 bottles back to the Canada or United States, and then you just heat it up a little bit and then you drink it. You can upgrade by putting a little bit, a slice of orange inside. If you would like to have a different version, then you would get this combination of different spices all together preset. You just need to get a semi-good bottle of wine, not too old. That's really important. And then you add that, you might add oranges. And then an important thing, it needs to simmer. I mean, Glühwein is not allowed to be cooked. It has to simmer. And it could simmer for about, with all of that, around 40 minutes without any problems. Or, last but not least, I do have here, you have it online, but I also have it on this plate. You see, you're supposed to add between 3 and 5 spices. And that's what I said, less is more. And then again, you do not boil it. You just simmer that, and then you're supposed to drink it. I love oranges to put it in. I put way less sugar, and I squeeze the orange juice inside, and then just cook it all together. And you're supposed to have it and drink it hot. It's wonderful.
Oh, that sounds delicious. We have a snowstorm coming here to the East Coast, and I think I might need to rush out and buy some spices and a bottle of wine.
Absolutely.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for telling us about Glühwein. I understand, Ildiko, that you also have a traditional sweet that you can share with us.
Yes, so I am going to be talking about Lebkuchen, and I actually bake this myself. I am a baker, and who isn't in Germany? Oh my God, I wish I could share this with you guys. So
Me too.
I know that this looks like gingerbread, but German Lebkuchen and gingerbread are 2 different worlds. So for one, the tradition of this is a lot older, and historians have been debating over this if it's 500 or 600 years ago, and they have been debating if the first Lebkuchen actually comes out of Nuremberg city or the city of Ulm. And who am I to decide that discussion? But what I can tell you is that at this time of the year, the smell of Lebkuchen, the experience of Lebkuchen in German cities is something that is going to change your worldview on baking and cookies. So for one thing, when you are making gingerbread, it is a lot harder. It snaps. This is a soft style cookie. We don't put as much ginger in it as you would put in the gingerbread. The gingerbread is just spiced with gingerbread. The original German Lebkuchen has at least 10 subtle spices in it, and among them, ginger may feature as well. But it is more like orange peel and star anise that you're going to be feeling when you bite in it. Usually, we like to cover it with something, either with oblaten, what we call, which is like kind of a baking wafer, or chocolate. And also, gingerbread has a lot of butter, which, as we know nowadays, is not so good for you. This one has none. And lastly, but not leastly, gingerbread is made with normal flour, and as tradition goes, back in ancient time, folks used to make Lebkuchen with either spelt or rye flour, and nowadays it's mainly made with nut flours, any kind of nut flour, which accidentally also makes it gluten-free.
Oh, wonderful! So for our gluten-free travelers, this is a treat that they would be able to enjoy.
Yeah,
Oh,
totally.
wonderful. All right. And Alex, I understand that you also wanted to chat about another snack for us. Could you go ahead and tell us what you have for us today?
Absolutely. As these two sweet ladies talk about sweets, it's my job to talk about different things. So what you can eat also in Christmas markets, but even when Christmas market not happening, are sausages. And as we have such a big variety of beer, we have a big variety of sausages, especially when you travel from north to the south. So you're in Berlin, you eat a currywurst. Yeah. Then you go to, for example, Weimar, you eat a Thüringer, which is longer. Then you go to Nuremberg, you have the Nürnberger sausages, which are very small ones in a bread. And then you come to Munich and you eat a good German Weisswurst. The Weisswurst is the only sausage in all these, what I mentioned, which is boiled and not bread, okay? And you always eat two of them together with a fine sweet mustard, a pretzel, and obviously a beer.
Of course, how could you not? Wonderful. Well, thank you all for sharing these culinary delights with us. I'm sure that I'm not the only one who's getting hungry now. So after this is over, I think I'm going to have to get a snack. But it is time to open it up for questions from our travelers. So if you do have a question that you would like us to ask our panelists, please put it in the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen. We will try to get to all of your questions. But you know, we only have so much time, but we will try to get to as many questions as possible. What I'm going to do to start is ask a question that I'm going to direct to all of you in turn. And this is one that we had actually submitted earlier before the webinar began. And what is one thing that a traveler absolutely cannot miss before leaving Germany? And Lala, I'm going to ask this of you first. What is something that a traveler cannot miss when they go to Germany?
I would say beer if I drank any, but I don't. So therefore, I would say excellent German wine.
Wonderful. And what kinds of wine might our travelers recognize?
Well,
like
for sure you do know Riesling without any doubts, but we do have other kinds of or sorts of wine that you would love once you come over. White ones, I mean red ones as well as rosé. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Ildiko, can you tell us what is one thing that you think a traveler cannot miss before leaving Germany?
Yes, so I was scared for a second that Lala took my idea away, but I still have to say it's going to be beer. And even if you are not a beer drinker, I absolutely think that you have to have a nice stein filled with a nice amount of German beer, sit down at a communal table with your friends, your fellow travelers, or even the random guy just coming to join you, and let the good time roll. Because until you have done that, you don't know how jolly Germans really can be.
I love the sound of that. The idea of being in a nice warm beer garden with good company sounds incredible right now. And Alex, what would you say is something that someone can't miss before they leave Germany?
Yeah, to wrap it up, I would say you learn a little bit of German, and then you find out our biggest secret, the German humor. It's not very well known, but we have it.
Lovely. So the souvenir or the thing you'd bring you can't miss is learning a little bit of German. And it sounds like if you go on Oktoberfest, you'll also be learning some German songs as well.
Absolutely.
I love it. All right, so we have some questions that have come in that I'm going to put to you. So there is one question here. Let's see. Oh, Ildiko, can you spell the name of the cookie that you were talking about?
Oh, Lebkuchen? Yes, I will. I can try at least. So it is. If you Google it, if I do it wrong, you will find it as German gingerbread. Gingerbread. It's Lebkuchen. Kuchen, Lebkuchen, Lebkuchen. And I must say that if you are calling in from the US or Canada, one ingredient that you will badly need for it is the German spice mixture, because even in Germany, we like to do things exactly, but we will not venture into mixing 10, 11 spices that really need to go in there. But just look for Lebkuchen spice mixture, and once you have it, you're good to go.
All right, wonderful. So if you're looking to undertake a baking project this holiday season, it's spelled Lebkuchen, Lebkuchen.
Yes.
Is my accent all right?
Totally. Better than my spelling.
All right. Okay, so let's see. Alex, I'm going to put this question to you. Where is the best place for a person to buy a lederhosen?
Oh, the best place is Bavaria. So the whole state of Bavaria. And if you have the biggest variety, obviously in Munich, which is the largest city, and especially around the Oktoberfest, you can also rent. In case you do not want to buy one, you can rent a lederhosen, or for the ladies, a dirndl. So I would highly recommend the city of Munich to buy a lederhosen or a dirndl.
Oh, wonderful. So if you're looking to get a lederhosen, make sure your tour includes Munich, which would fit the bill if you're going to Oktoberfest. So think about that. All right, Lala, I have a question for you, and this is about the Christmas markets. And the question is, how cold does it get during the Christmas market in Germany and Hungary? Just talk about the weather and how people might prepare for that.
Well, I mean, I've been doing the Christmas markets for many, many years, as long as kind of we run it. And I have to say it has been really cold. I do mean it, minus degrees, maybe once in such a way that it became unpleasant. Normally, we pray for seeing real snow, and we see that in the Alps somewhere. And then we are all happy about that, and we just go back. It's not very cold, even though spontaneously I will have difficulties to translate Celsius into Fahrenheit, but let's say it's about 30 degrees. I mean, right now in Berlin, we have outside about, I don't know, 40 something, and it's 40s, so it's not really that cold. Global warming, my friends.
Mm. All right. So, and also you're going to have the Glühwein to keep you a little bit warm as well.
Absolutely, and young.
All right. So Ildiko, this one actually is sort of going a little bit off of the topic that we had been on as far as special events. What is your favorite tour that's not a special events tour?
Oh God, my favorite tour that is not a special event tour. I think lately I really have grown very liking the one that we call Highlights of Northern Europe, that starts in Amsterdam and then goes into Germany through Bremen city and Hamburg and then Copenhagen, and we fly over to Sweden with an extension to Bergen, Norway, because it does have a theme, a topic that one can cover in depth, which is Hanseatic Europe, Hanseatic medieval Europe, Northern Germany. And there are not so many tours that go to Hamburg and Bremen, and I just tend to love those cities.
Yeah, I was going to say this is one that we have that goes to some places that some of our other tours do not, and Hamburg is one of them. Why do you love visiting those places so much?
I would say that I, as a person, like to walk a little bit trails that are less traveled, for one. So when you're thinking of Germany, people always are going to say, oh, Munich, or Oktoberfest, Hofbräuhaus. Now they just started to say Angela Merkel, maybe, and Berlin, but everything else is a little bit cut short. And I think that there is so much more to it, and also Northern Germany people usually think of bad weather and it is taciturn German, not saying much, and it's not like that at all. Many don't know that we have some of the best chocolate coming out of Northern Germany, and some of the best marzipan, if you are into that. And again, architecture, history everywhere, and yeah, it's just splendid.
Wow. I mean, that sounds like a great tour, whether you've already been to Germany and hit some of those other cities that people think of, or if it's your first time. It sounds like you can really get something out of it no matter what.
Absolutely.
Alex, this is a question, and I don't know how hard this is going to be for you to answer, but what is your favorite beer?
Okay, difficult. Let's say that. If I am in Munich, in Bavaria, I love the Augustiner. That's a brewery. It's a Helles. Okay, it's called Augustiner. But if I'm outside of Bavaria, I drink Pilsen. You know, it's a little bit more spicy. So if I have to say a brand, it's not easy. So for Helles, Augustiner, no doubt about it. If I have to talk about Pilsner, you know, my heart, where I'm coming from, is the Black Forest. And we have a small brewery called Rothaus, and the brand is called Tannenzäpfle. Have fun to find that. Tannenzäpfle. I can spell it to you, but it takes like 15 minutes.
Speaking of the Black Forest, we did get a question, and do we cover the Black Forest on any of our tours? Alex, I guess I'll just bounce that back to you.
Yeah, we do. For example, we have the Grand Tour of Germany, which passes by. Then we have the tour. It's Alsace. Ladies, help me out. It's
Switzerland.
Alsace and the Black Forest.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. So we do. Yeah. And
But
on some
also
tours,
on this tour, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, we do go through Black Forest.
Correct.
And we stay over there. And when it's not during the Christmas time, because in Black Forest it does snow once in a while, we all love going hiking and just kind of, diving in. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for talking about that. I know that that's something, or a place that a lot of folks are very interested in traveling to. So this next question, I'm going to actually open it up to all of you because I'm not sure of the answer. But the question is: have any of you directed the Christmas markets tour that goes to Eastern Europe? So the Eastern European Christmas markets trip, and is there a big difference between those Christmas markets and the Christmas markets in Germany?
Well, it's just used to be a part of the Habsburg Empire. I mean, many of them. So it's true.
Hey,
It took over the Eastern Europe. The tour that we have is the tour that goes to Hungary, and then it goes to Austria, Hungary, and you just have Poland next to that, etc. So, but they took over the traditions. The furthest I went and saw the most unbelievable Christmas market, but we don't go that far, was in Russia, because they celebrate it later, and it's the most opulent that I've ever seen. And what we do is normally Vienna, Budapest, and Prague, just combining that.
If I may add something to that, because I do the Eastern Europe Christmas tours quite a bit, and oh, Lala. So if you just a little bit of Poland, that is really what makes a difference. So in my experience, as far as Christmas markets go, our travelers seem to love the Vienna one the most. As we don't go to Dresden so much, only on the historic Germany tour. But to get snow and to get that special winter atmosphere with the backdrop of unspoiled old medieval German all medieval Central European cities, you have to put Poland in there as well. It does get even colder in Poland. I have to add that on the Eastern Europe tours. And since I don't know technically all of them, I can say that there is a little bit of difference in theme between the different Christmas markets. So when you go the direction of Eastern Europe, they get a little bit more arts and craft stuff. So you get more like the mugs and even clothing items, hats and gloves and candles. Whereas if you go towards the German direction, it's going to be more of that traditional range and selection of Christmas decoration that Lala already highlighted, the wooden pyramids, the glass baubles and such. So there is a little bit of difference.
Oh, great. Well, thank you for talking about that. I know that, when you're looking and trying to decide which Christmas market tour to go on, it can be really hard to decide. So that information, I think, is helpful to folks out there. Alex, this is a question about Oktoberfest, and about crowds. Because you said it's the largest public event in the world, do the crowds going to Oktoberfest make it so it's harder to get around Germany during that time?
No, first of all, the Oktoberfest, only to make that clear, is only exclusively in Munich and also only on a special place in Munich. So it is a little bit, during the Oktoberfest time, the area around Munich is not easy to have access by car. But you should not drive anyway when you go to the Oktoberfest because makes sense, right? But
Yes.
There's a lot of public transportation. There are taxis, and especially when you travel with us, we bring you with a bus there and we walk into the tents. Crowd-wise, I mean, the Oktoberfest is 16, sometimes 18 days long, right? And so during the week, there's a little bit less people than on weekends. So, and depending on the the time of the day when you go to the Oktoberfest, it's better to go earlier than later, I would say. So, but it's only Munich and only around the field, the Wiesn.
All right. That leads me into another question that we got, which is, how accessible are the hotels to Oktoberfest or the Christmas markets? Then they go on to say, if we stay late in the evening, are we on our own to get back? Can you talk about like the logistics of getting people to and from Oktoberfest and the Christmas markets?
I love to. So what we do usually is depending on the time when we have reservations. So the bus brings us very close to the field. So it's a short walk onto the main field. Now, when we are going to the main field, there's a main entrance and there's also a good point, a meeting point. So I'll give you an example. We have a reservation from say 11 till 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And I will tell my group, so we all go in together and so on and so on. I see whenever it finish at 3:30, I meet you at that point. If you're not there, I know that you celebrate and go on and go on and go on. And then I bring you home. If you are on your own later, it is really, really simple. I highly recommend taxis because it's the best way. There's also public transportation, but they're usually very crowded as later it gets. So taxis would be the best way. We don't have such thing like Uber so big here, but taxis are all, and our hotels are not so far away from the Oktoberfest event.
So if you wanted to stay late, you definitely can, but you just take a taxi cab and they'll be able to get you back to the hotel.
Out of my experience, about 30% of the travelers stayed behind and partied on.
Fair enough. And Lala, for the Christmas markets, is it a similar kind of setup where there'll be a departure time, but if you want to stay later, of course you can?
Oh, well, the Christmas markets, they're in the cities that we are going. So we inevitably are there. That's where we spend our free time. I mean, like, for example, it's very often the choice for lunch, and it's very often the place where the people stay after dinner or go back. So because it's open between, I don't know, 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. or more or less that time. So it's a permanently open space. What we do very often, because cities like Vienna, they don't have one market, they have many different markets. They have a medieval Christmas market, they have the big one in front of the city hall, they have the central one somewhere else. And they're actually specialized also on different things. So like in Vienna, we might walk from one Christmas market to another in order to get acquainted, that the people have an overview, like what can I find here, what can I find there, and then go back afterwards.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I know that, for folks planning, knowing these kind of logistical things is really important, and you want to know these kind of things ahead of time. So we have a question that I'm actually going to open up for all of you, but I'm going to start with Ildiko. And this question isn't really necessarily tied to Go Ahead Tours, but are there any summer festivals or events that we should check out?
Wow, yeah, that's a good question, actually. Germany in the summer, I want to say it's really about music, and we do not have any of these like huge signature festivals. There is one that goes on from May until September, and we call it in German Rhein in Flammen, but that has just sporadic, so here and there events. And I checked for 2021, they don't seem to have anything for June and July, but for May and August and September, when they have fireworks and village fairs going on. But the music festivals are really great. So if anybody is in music, you will have a large selection of events you can pick from. And my two favorite ones in June and July is, for example, the Fête de la Musique in Berlin, which starts in June and goes into July, because it covers a large number of musical directions. So it's not just rock or heavy metal, or I don't know, but you can also catch classical concerts. And we do have a great jazz festival going on, I want to say beginning of June in Hamburg as well, which is called the Elb Jazz Festival.
Great. And Alex and Lala, is there any other summer events that you can think of that our travelers might be interested in?
I don't know really a specific summer event, because in Germans love summer, so they want to have some good sun and stuff like that. But we have in another time of the year, for example, February. You don't think about February very often to travel. We have Carnival. You like Mardi Gras, very traditional, especially in my Black Forest in the south, and it's really, really nice to watch. I was a Carnival fan. What a surprise!
Wonderful. All right, so I think that this is going to be our last question, do you have, or actually I think we have time for two more questions. One question here is, do you have any tours that include sites related to Martin Luther?
We used to have a tour dedicated, what was it? Well, it was 2 years ago, right? I mean, like it was the Reformation tour. We just had a complete Reformation tour that we designed for that period of time, and that would go to the places which are connected to his life. Whether we have it at the moment, I doubt it, but it was because it was in the connection of 1517.
Yeah, we had the 500th anniversary of Martin Luther too. And but if you go to Saxony, Dresden, you will learn a lot about also Martin Luther. There's a big statue, and the most important Lutheran church is actually in Dresden, the Frauenkirche, the Church of Our Lady.
And if you are interested in creating a tour and you don't see the sites that you want to visit, we can always customize a tour for folks as well. So if you're out there and you're interested in having a tour that is very much focused on Martin Luther, give us a call and we can build just about any tour you want. Okay, so this is the last question that I have. It's a tough one. What is your favorite Christmas ornament? Ildiko, do you have a favorite Christmas ornament?
Oh my God, that really is a tough one. So, but I think I would want to go with, or I will have to go with glass ornaments from Prague. And Prague, Czech Republic, is really famous about a centuries-old glass blowing tradition, and they are just kind of along more the subtle line, and they are all over the place. They are easy to get, and they are really, really well priced. So if you are someone like me who can always use another glass bubble, go to Prague.
Wonderful, thank you. Lala, do you have a favorite Christmas ornament or type of Christmas ornament?
Right, I bought it, I think 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago, I bought the ice skating ornament. I mean, it's just like the ice skating, and they are not made out of glass, but out of papier-mâché. So, but I mean, made in such a great way that I still use it.
Wonderful, thank you. And Alex, how about you?
Well, I have one ornament which was actually in my family for centuries. So it's a star which is the top of the tree. So wow. It's kind of a heritage. So therefore, it's more like a personal touched ornament.
Well, that's incredible. You gotta love, a meaningful ornament like that as well. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, the three of you, for joining us. I know that I feel very lucky to have been able to chat with you about all of these tours and these different events. It's been a really wonderful session that we've had here. For those of you watching at home, we do want to remind you that special events are not the only kind of tours we do. Regardless of what your travel style is, we have a tour that can meet your needs. Whether you're looking for one of our classic tours, a tour that focuses on history or food and beer, or you want to customize your own tour, we have you covered there. So regardless of what your travel style is, we have something that can fit your needs. I also want to remind you about some upcoming sessions that we have in our Travel Talk series. Next month, we're going to be having a destination spotlight on Spain. That's going to be happening on Tuesday, January 12th. Then on January 28th, we're going to be focusing on solo tours. So Go Ahead Now has tours that are designed for solo travelers. And so we want to talk about those a little bit more in depth. And especially if you're a solo traveler, we would love to have you join us for that. And then in February, we're also going to be doing another destination spotlight. This time, we're going to be focusing on Australia and New Zealand. Wonderful destinations. So mark your calendars for these upcoming events. We also want to remind you that if you have questions about tours or you're feeling like you really want to get signed up now, please give us a call at 877-402-4072. Or you can visit us whenever you like at goaheadtours.com. I'm going to bring back our panelists now for one more goodbye. So please say hello or goodbye rather to all of our travelers, and thank you again for joining us.
And a Happy New
Frohe
Year.
Weihnachten.
Frohe Weihnachten.
Guten
Guten
Rutsch.
Rutsch.
Prost.
Prost.